Hey everybody, welcome to Divine Thursday for August 20th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, today on Divine Thursday we are going to be looking at Find Traps. Wait a minute. This segment is about divine spells, isn't it? Yes, it is. Then why are we talking about a rogue ability? We are not talking about a rogue ability. We are absolutely not talking about a rogue ability because, ladies and gentlemen, yes, in their infinite wisdom, Wizards of the Coast, D&D, going all the way back to the beginning, actually, anticipated that you might not have a rogue handy in the party. And if you in fact have a cleric handy in the party, they can help you find the traps. Now, of course, the rogue can disarm the traps. Cleric, that's another matter. So let's take a look and see what this Find Trap spell is all about. It's available to clerics, druids, and rangers. So mainly divine casters. Second level spell, one action, casting time, range 120 feet. Nice long range on the spells this week. Verbal and somatic, instantaneous, divination, and it just allows you to detect. What can you detect? You can detect the presence of any trap within range that is within line of sight. So it's a line of sight spell. A trap for the purpose of the spell includes anything that would inflict a sudden or unexpected effect you consider harmful or undesirable, which was specifically intended as such by its creator. Okay, so this is the fine print in the leasing agreement for your new automobile. Anything that would inflict a sudden or unexpected effect you consider harmful or undesirable, which was specifically intended to do so by its creator. Thus, the spell would sense an area affected by the alarm spell, or a glyph of warding, or a mechanical pit trap, but it would not reveal a natural weakness in the floor, an unstable ceiling, or a hidden sinkhole. So, natural formations or things that have just gotten to be dangerous with age, no, it's not gonna detect that. And the spell merely reveals that a trap is present. You don't learn the location of each trap, but you do learn the general nature of the danger posed by a trap you sense. Now, here's the kicker. Duration instantaneous. Line of sight. So what this means is now there's no facing in 5th edition. So I think technically what it means is it means that in a 360-degree arc around you, at the moment you cast a spell from where you are, can you see the effect of that trap out to 120 feet? Now, obviously, can't see through walls, can't see through dense foliage or things like that. So there's that limitation. But also, it's instantaneous. So this is not something you turn on and then can walk around with and keep it going by concentration, and then you figure out where the traps are as you go. At least not in a 5th edition version. Let's look at the older versions and see what it says about those. So we will go all the way back to 2nd level clerical spells from original D&D. And we see Find Traps. Duration 2 turns. Everybody remember what we said about turns in the older editions? They're 10 minutes long. So this lasts for 20 minutes. 5th edition, it's a flash that just goes out instantaneously. This is a 20-minute scan. Spell causes all mechanical and magical traps to glow with a dull blue light when the cleric comes within 30 feet of them. So 30 feet instead of 120 feet. It does not reveal the types of traps nor any method of removing them. Note that an ambush is not a trap, nor is a natural hazard such as quicksand. So there was already a little bit of legalese and a few loopholes that your DM could exploit in the original edition rules. They have given DMs a lot more leeway in 5th edition. A lot more things he can do to make your life miserable because it's not a trap. It's just an old, worn out section of floor, and you just happen to walk into it. I'm so sorry that you fell and hurt yourself. Roll up a new character. All right, so let's say 1st edition, AD&D. Again, it's a 2nd level spell, divination. This time it lasts 3 turns, so it lasts 30 minutes. 20 minutes the first time, 20 minutes in original D&D, half an hour in AD&D, instantaneous in 5th edition. Verbal and somatic, 5 segments. So it's just the length of time that it takes to cast. When a cleric casts the Find Trap spell, all traps, concealed normally or magically, of magical or mechanical nature become visible to him or her. Note that this spell is directional, and the caster must face a desired direction in order to determine if a trap is laid in that particular direction. Now, the range, 3 inches here, that doesn't mean it's right in front of your face. That means it's 30 feet if you're indoors, 30 yards if you're outdoors. That's the designation that they have in that particular edition of the game, AD&D. All right. Find traps in 2nd edition. 30 minutes. Area of effect, 10 feet wide by 30 yards long. So now it's a 10-foot wide beam that as you turn, it goes with you. It swivels, and if it's within that 10-foot swath, you will see it. Priest cast Find Traps. All traps concealed normally and magical of magical or mechanical nature become apparent to him. Now look at how much longer this description is. They've been talking to the lawyers, and they're writing more loopholes in. A trap is any device or magical ward that meets 3 criteria. It can inflict a sudden or unexpected result. Hey, saw that language in 5th edition. The spellcaster would view the result as undesirable or harmful. Hey, we saw that in 5th edition. And the harmful or undesirable result was specifically intended as such by the creator. Hey, that's also in 5th edition. Thus, traps include alarms, glyphs, and similar spells or devices. The caster learns the general nature of the trap, magical or mechanical, but not its exact effect, nor how to disarm it. Close examination will, however, enable the caster to sense what intended actions might trigger it. Note that the caster's divination has limited knowledge of what might be unexpected and harmful. The spell cannot predict actions of creatures, so a concealed murder hole or ambush is not a trap, nor are natural hazards considered traps, a cavern that floods during rain, a wall weakened by age, etc., etc. If the DM is using specific glyphs or sigils to identify magical wards, this spell shows the form of the glyph or mark. Spell does not detect traps that have been disarmed or are otherwise inactive. All right, so now one of the reasons I do this segment is to give DMs a sense of history. This right here, this section right here, where it talks about the general nature of the trap, but not its effect nor how to disarm it, close examination will enable the caster to sense what intended actions might trigger it. Now, that kind of description is not in the other editions, but it's something that you can choose to use in 5e if you want to. So you might say, all right, I am going to say that um, this find trap spell will mean that normally somebody would have to roll a uh, some kind of a check, investigation check to figure out how to trigger the trap. Maybe I'm going to say that because the cleric blew a second level spell slot, I'm just going to give them that information when they get close, and I'm not going to make them roll an investigation check. It doesn't say that in 5th edition, but as the DM, you could decide to do that, and you would be operating within the historic spirit of the spell. Now, if you're a player and you try to use that kind of knowledge of the history of the spell against your DM, well, then you run the wrath of having the DM be mad at you. So, if the DM is nice and decides to give you something, then just, put your hands together, bow your head, and say, "Thank you, Mr. DM," or "Thank you, Ms. DM. We really appreciate what you have done for us as players," and be happy about it. But don't whine and ask the DM for something because you think you know the rules of older editions. That just makes you a whiner and complainer, and nobody will want to play with you anymore. All right, now let's go to the 3rd edition. Find traps again, cleric, level 2 spell, and it lasts a minute per level. So everything except for 5th edition has a duration. 5th edition is just a one-time thing. You gain intuitive insight into the workings of traps. You use the search skill to detect traps just as a rogue can. In addition, you gain insight bonus equal to 1/2 your caster level, maximum plus 10 on search checks made to find traps while the spell is in effect. Okay, now here's something really interesting. This doesn't automatically reveal the traps for you. This just gives you a better chance to detect traps. Now, and you're gonna ask me to use a 2nd level spell slot on that? Okay, I'm just going to say 3rd edition, this is the absolute worst implementation of find traps. This is just a bad spell. It's a wasted spell slot. You're going to tell me that you're going to take a 2nd level spell slot just to give yourself a chance to detect traps? No. Absolutely not. No. Dumb. Don't waste a spell slot on that. All the other editions of the game where this spell exists, it doesn't exist in 4th edition, but all the other editions, they absolutely show you where the traps are. And they show you if they're mechanical traps or magical traps. 3rd edition doesn't even guarantee that you will find it. You waste the spell slot, and then you have a couple of botched rolls, and you still walk right into the pit trap, fall down, and get yourself impaled on a steel spike at the bottom of a 60-foot well that's filled with black pudding and other nasty things. Yeah. So don't use it in 3rd edition. We do not like this spell in 3rd edition. It's just kind of, that's one of the other interesting things about doing this series is that you go back and you really compare edition by edition. What do these spells do? How do they work? Why would you use it? And in the case of this one, if you're playing 3rd edition, why would you use it? In fact, if you are a 3rd edition player, and if you play a cleric, and if you waste a 2nd edition spell slot on the Find Trap spell. I want you to put in the comments why you are so smart for doing that when all it does is give you a chance to find traps. And all the other editions of this spell guarantee that you're going to find traps. Why would you do that? I'm really genuinely curious. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. All right. Normally, I don't get really hot and bothered about the differences between editions. Normally, I think it's an interesting exercise. But in this case, it just feels like they went out of their way to make life really difficult on people with this particular spell in 3rd edition. All right. Maybe it was something that the Rogues Union did. Maybe the Rogues all got together and said, everybody else is intruding on our class abilities. You can't keep giving other people the ability to do things that rogues are supposed to do. And so they said, all right, little rogues. All right, little rogues. Be appeased. Look, with this edition, we're only going to give the clerics a chance to find the traps. We're not going to guarantee that he or she can find them. Will that make you happy? Okay, can I have a lollipop? Here you go. Here's a nice little lollipop. And hey, the dragon didn't lock his door when he left his lair, so you can go steal it. Oh, cool. All right, so that is all we have for Find Traps this week. All right, if you like the content that we are putting out on this channel, please click the subscribe button. Please click that notification bell and leave comments down below. Whatever edition you're using. You use this Find Trap spell. What's been a fun or really key moment when you've seen this spell used in a game that you were playing? Whether you used it or whether another player at your table, or if you were the DM and one of the players used it, what was something that was really neat that came out of that spell? Or go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'd love to read that. All right. That's going to do it for Divine Thursday. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Hope everybody is staying safe. You can come back here every day of the week to find more content that we put up. In the description, you'll find how to follow me on social media. You will find information about the live streams that I do every week, or how you can find those live streams over on my Twitch channel. And with that, I'm going to bid you all a good night. Take care, everybody.